Well, girlfriend, it's time to quote the Scream thing. Okay, let's get right to it. Superman, good or bad? Well, I feel a lot like Angry Joe. So, Angry Joe's like, I cannot call this a bad movie. And if people bring up me saying, how could you be so racist? There was too much good stuff in this for me to say, honestly. It was bad, very well done. And many things I complained about in my trailer reactions with special effects, Lex being whiny, and certain dodgy issues with the plot, they did address them. And when you see things in the right context, a lot makes more sense. A lot does make sense. However, I will not lie to you, many things that were wrong in the trailers remain wrong. Like certain visual effects, not good. Some really bad jokes, they're still there. In fact, there's a lot more jokes than you could ever imagine. But that said, I'm going to go against the consensus. So a lot of people are, well, it has a very rocky beginning, literally, but once you get over the first 20, 30 minutes, then it starts to get really, really good and gets better every minute. I disagree. Let me just get the central story out of the way because some people might actually care. So basically, Lex has a conspiracy plan to destroy the Man of Supar. That is the main story. Of course, Superman doesn't want to get destroyed. He's going to try to stop that, and he gets help from his friends and Lois and, of course, Jimmy. That's the story. But it is built upon a very shaky foundation. I actually was with James Gunn for about a whole hour. So for about an hour, I was with him. There were a few flaws here and there, but for the most part, I was on board. I actually did not have a problem adjusting to this new Man of Super or this story. However, something did happen where this film goes overboard and it keeps going more overboard and more overboard, and I got lost. However, the final scenes were very powerful. They were well done. They were shot well, excellent dialogue, excellent acting. So it has a very solid hour and a pretty strong conclusion. But there is a big section that is just a slog and just creates a lot of puzzles and distractions. And you're like, what was the point? And a lot of people are complaining, well, the problem here is James Gunn. I actually disagree there too. I don't think that's true. Although this is one of his weakest screenplays, it is not too bad a film. And the story, while pretty thin, is to me actually better than Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, which I did not like. Are there many Gunnisms? Yes, there are many signature things we get from Gunn and only Gunn. However, I think he actually restrained himself. So this is not a failure because there is too much James Gunn. If anything, they don't go all the way with it. So what exactly is Superman? I guess the best way to describe it, it is a morning cartoon. This is essentially 4 episodes of the Superman animated series of the 90s brought back in live action, unashamed. And the biggest struggle is Superman loses his optimism and regains it. He does have real external struggle with Lois, with Ultraman, with Lex, with the conspiracy. And yes, some of the rumors are true. This is no spoiler, but yes, the rumors that is he really going to complain about social media? Yes. Social media is a massive part of this plot. However, I will give James Gunn this. It is not as annoying as people think. That is not what I was annoyed by. So let us get to a thing I can't even get into details about, but he changes a major, and I do mean a major part of Superman mythology. And I think many fans are going to be like, what did you just do? That was insane. That was insane. It's a risky, bold move. I think ultimately it doesn't work, but for the duration of the film, it's strong enough. It is strong enough, but it is very shaky. It is very shaky. And although I never did this theory video, I speculated it would be a family crisis. I was right, and not the one I thought. I'll just say that. It's involving his family. I'll just leave it there. But it is plausible, and they give you good reasons why it's plausible. You do have questions like, wait, if he was in Metropolis for like these many years, and him and Lois, why? Yeah, there are questions. There are questions. But I mainly had a good time with this film, but there were moments that were just so epically crazy and so hilariously dumb. Did I enjoy it? Yes, but I just felt this weakened the story. It didn't destroy the characters, but it really diminished them and the stakes and undercut any seriousness in the narrative. Now, granted, this is not meant to be a serious narrative. There are serious things, there are sad moments, emotive moments. But there are many moments where you're like, okay, I see the person crying, you're getting distraught, but I know, and it does happen. I mean, cartoon Superman, it is more radical than that. I mean, it's not Superboy, but this Superman is really over the top about preserving life. That is his main goal, preserving life, saving people. That is his main goal. But a deep irony, and again, I will not give details, but it was given away in the trailer. One of the people he saves, which people are like, oh my God, I love that scene. That's it. There's almost nothing else. He saves someone and bye, moving on. He doesn't do that in all cases. Sometimes he does stop chit chat, but yeah, and one of the most critical saves, like the one like, oh, there's going to be a lot of power here. No, he just saves this person, moves on. It really didn't matter. It didn't have any big impact on the plot or the story on himself. So this is a very mixed film. I'm going to say it's more mixed bad, but there were many great. But it is definitely not Spider-Man 1 or 2. It is definitely not The Dark Knight. So it's not one of the best comic book films, but it is very decent and respectable. However, as a hardcore fan who's read the comics, loved the cartoons, I think this should have been more of a JLU cartoon. If you're going to do a cartoon, do a JLU. They didn't. They did a very silly parody of the 1990s cartoon. And a lot of fans will love the Superman being this lighthearted and just being one of the bros and being a big brother, just helping people out. But other people, and I include myself, will get a little tired of him whining and crying and, yeah, why are you attacking me, Lois? I'm the good guys. What are you doing? I don't pay attention to Reddit. What are you talking about? He does sound really whiny, but to be fair and consistent, Lex Luthor does too. Yeah, Lex sounds pretty whiny. And you're like, what is this, a wine fest? Is this a wine convention? What happened here? So many good things. Undeniably, a very powerful cinematic experience and many key scenes, but there were many other scenes that were also very critical. They are critical to the plot, critical to the story, and they are just super dumb, super indulgent, and just so over the top. But as I expected, yes, the minor characters, Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, they shine. Lois Lane is excellent. She's consistently good from beginning to end. But the central performances are very shaky. Sometimes David is great as Superman, but other times he's like, very iffy choice. Same thing with Lex. I thought Lex was going to be consistently good. No, he's pretty good for the most part, but he has some scenes and some bits of dialogue were so ridiculous. Even for Lex Luthor, you're like, why would you say that? But I will say, even though I hate the costume, it does work for the ending of this story. He looks really grand. He looks very stoic. He looks very powerful at the end. So this is above average, but it has too many bad elements. So I'm going to give it a 6.5. I would recommend seeing it in theaters, but only once, because I don't think you're going to see it again. You're going to be like, okay, that was fun. That was nice. We're moving on. And that is Superman 2025. Above average, but not yet good. Just barely above bad. And there we are.